Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon to some who have joined. Thank you very much for joining our first inaugural TAG Monthly Deep Dive. My name's Jennifer Rinfret, and with me today I have Benjamin Brousseau and Doyle Detro, who are going to share a new functionality that we're quite excited about that is centered around digital forms and all that the extra functionality that will bring to your organization and the different ways that you can use these forms. So I'm just going to go through a little bit of our agenda. Um, Obviously, we want to give a little bit of background of what the digital forms are, recommended use cases for those digital forms, different verticals, different industries, the regulatory requirements that we recognize that these come in to be very, very useful and helpful. And then, of course, we are going to provide a live demonstration to go through what they really look like, ease of use, and how you can incorporate them into your tag environment. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the mic on to Doyle, who is going to give a little bit of a brief why and background behind the digital forms. Doyle, are you there?
Oh, there we go. Move the slide forward. Okay. Okay. So the digital forms, really cool functionality. They're easy to build. You got a tool that you can import a PDF form, an existing PDF form that you have today. It will read that form and automatically suggest the fields that exist on that form, and then we can map it into tags. So you can turn a paper form into a digital form. We can capture that data going forward. They are great. Obviously, these digital forms are improving compliance, removing paper from your systems and operations, and obviously increasing efficiency. So making it very easy to get forms done. Examples of forms, often they're regulatory, but not they don't have to be regulatory, and obviously probably more of them than not are not regulatory. But in some industries, for example, in the electrical industry, we've got the regulatory body NETA, and you've got certain inspection forms that must be they're required on a periodic basis. Those forms must be saved in their specified format. Doing them digitally allows you to capture those and save them forever, and you can reproduce them anytime you want. They're saved to a work order, they're saved to the equipment, to the asset, whatever you need. Could be used for inspection forms, so just company required inspection forms. So these are very common with rolling stock, and with fleet. So rolling vehicles, forklifts, anything like that. Safety forms. So this is another common one, and this applies across multiple industries, but just a safety form for heavy machinery, equipment. We see this a lot in just plant energy. We'll have safety forms, various types of safety forms. You can use these in manufacturing. So an use cases that we've got, for example, companies that are maintaining assets that they're also manufacturing. They'll often have, when the piece of equipment is complete, they'll have forms that need to be digital forms that need to be created, equipment specs, that type of thing that will travel with the asset for the life of its asset. And then other data entry. I mean, just any type of data entry where a flexible form can be beneficial. Really, these digital forms can be used for that. And I'm sure Ben will probably have an example of something like that in his presentation. Ben, I will go ahead and hand it over to you.
Okay. All right, I'll just go ahead and share my screen. So the example we'll be walking through today will be kind of a common one that we will see. It's kind of the most mainstream way, or it's a good starting point for organization to be using digital form. And it's going to be the example of a risk assessment form. Okay. So the data set and the scenario we're dealing with here is I have a work order 119 here on an exhaust fan. Okay. And I can select my work order. Okay, and I'm a technician portal, and I have a form here. I have a form section. Okay? And if I click on this form, okay, we'll see that this will be a risk assessment form. Okay. There's different ways that we can build forms. We'll take a look a little bit later at that. This example that I'm showing here would be a PDF form that I have. And you see I can fill out this PDF with different information. Like here I would have the reference number that I can input. Okay, I have all of those fields. I won't go through all of them for the sake of this demonstration, but let's just walk through the main variables. Okay, so let's say here as a technician, I'm prompted to assess what are my different risk types. Okay, and I'll say this would be confined space. Okay, I can say the fan unit is installed in the ceiling and it is a confined space. Okay. Persons impacted, of course, this is going to change from organization to organization. This is just the example I decided to demonstrate today, but we'll just walk it through. Employees. So we're giving a lot of flexibility for organization to design their own forms. Okay, we also have some forms that we can suggest. Let's say here the risk impact. Okay, this one's going to be minor. Okay, and my risk probability will be highly unlikely. And we often see that with risk assessment, okay, which is always going to be the impact and probability. Okay? And here I'm showcasing a severity matrix. Okay, so if I look at minor and highly unlikely, okay, I have minor here and highly unlikely. This would be a low severity level. User, fill in low here. Okay. Current control measures. I'm just going to fill in informed my coworkers of expected completion time. No further actions required. If this would have been, let's say, a higher risk level, we could have also had them fill out the actions to implement to mitigate that risk. Okay, who's assigned to, what's the due date, what's the status. Okay, I could sign over here. Okay, and in my case, I will just submit my form. So now we can, with those forms, we could build different types of workflows. Okay, a good example here as a technician is maybe I'm not authorized to perform this work order, okay, until that risk assessment has been reviewed by a manager, let's say. Okay, in our case, I could go here and I could just run through our standard functionality and modify my status to, let's say, permit approval or to whatever workflows we would want to put in place. Okay. At this point, this would be standard tag plan functionalities. Okay, but we can really design those restrictions around the forms where, let's say, I could have had that report maintenance function locked until the status would be ready or approved, as an example. If I go back to my exhaust fan over here, okay, I could add another form as well. This was defaulted to a risk assessment, but we can also give the flexibility for the technician to browse a bank of digital forms. Okay, let's say a commissioning form, a standard maintenance procedure. In my case, my risk assessment was just here at the beginning or at the end, sorry, but it could be the technician's responsibility to, let's say, identify a situation and manually insert a form. Okay? Most often than not, we'll be able to default those forms based on the asset or based on the work order or the preventive maintenance procedure. Okay? But depending on the nature of the work, this is a very good functionality here to allow the user to insert different forms that we may have. Okay? We can also see existing form data that would have been inserted against different work orders if you have the required permissions to do that. Okay, we could implement that only the managers would be able to look at submitted form data. Okay. Now, if we navigate to this page here, okay, we thought it would have been interesting to, in this demonstration, to show where do those form comes from. Okay, and we'll take my risk assessment form that I have as an example here. Okay, so this is another interface. Okay, it comes with the digital forms module or add-on. Okay, and from here you can add different forms, and you can also maintain the existing forms that you have. If I click on this risk assessment form here, you see that it was created by me about 2 months ago or a month ago. Okay, I can click on versions. Again, this is very important in the regulatory context where you'll be maintaining those forms will evolve over time. Okay, and you're able to maintain different versions and different revisions and add comments to these. Okay, but let's say I take my version 1.0 of my risk assessment. Okay, and I click on edit. We'll be able to see how we can build those forms. Okay? For this given example, I have a PDF. So I just took an example of a PDF that came from one of our partners, and I was able to build those different input fields. Okay, so you see here that the reference ID number, in my case, would be a number. And I have those PDF fields here on the right-hand side that I can drag and drop. Okay, so if I scroll down, it should have one of these, let's say actions to implement. Okay, I'll be able to just drag and drop and build my own forms. We'll just save this one, and then we can resize to what makes sense. Okay. Let's say here I have assigned to. Okay, if I put a text area, we can not only build the forms, but we could build some logic, okay, or have a link to our API, okay? That means that a good application of that would be, let's say we have a commissioning form, okay? Every time we receive a new asset and we install it in our workshop, we could build ourselves a commission form, and one of those input fields could be the equipment serial number, okay? And I could link that field here, serial number, to our tag API, okay, and map it to the equipment table and to the serial number, which means that straight out of the form, out of the PDF here in the portal, the user could submit it. And once it's approved, values from the form could modify fields in your Business Central database, okay? Or any fields that would be available into the tag API. This is a good example for PDF forms. Like I said, they're a good ways to get started. Okay, most organization would already have these forms configured, but we can also add a new form. Okay, and we have 3 different ways of adding a new form. Okay, we can create a web form. These will be useful for smaller types of forms. Let's say half a dozen up to 10 fields. Okay, we can have a wizard. These can be would be most useful for most complex forms, okay, where you can have different sections, you can have tabulation. These can be great. And the one that I just showcased would be PDF, where you can import a PDF file and then map the existing fields. Okay. Let's say here I would click on a web form. Okay, you see that I don't have a PDF overlay, and I'll need to build that form myself. Okay, and here we can call this one right number, and I'll be able to build here kind of a more simplistic version of my risk assessment form. The forms are right now deployed in the both the technician and the manager portal. They're not in the requester portal just yet, but that's going to be coming up. Okay. Especially to support that risk assessment form where, let's say, a user would raise a request, they could also raise the required permits they have at the same time, and the manager could approve these as a bundle. Okay, that's going to be our next step in terms of digital forms, and we also have them available in our mobile app. Okay, that's going to be our next webinar, so we'll be able to showcase that at this point as well. I'll just be able to save this form, be able to give it form name, risk assessment, simple, okay? And I can also edit my versions here. Each forms could have as many versions as you want. If I look at my submissions over here, we'll see that I'll have submission I made just a little bit earlier with my reference number, my low severity risk, okay, and my required control measures. That was it for this short demonstration. Hopefully this gives you some inspiration or some ideas as how you can leverage digital forms. Okay, we got to cover just the risk assessment context today, but if you have any questions on different scenarios, we have quite a bit of time. Okay, so we can have a discussion now, or if not, you can reach out to Doyle and to Jennifer, and we could set up a one-on-one call at your convenience.
Yeah, I would just like to add that, you showed the form capability in our reactive mobile web application, right? That is
Yes.
optimized for tablets, but we also have the form functionality available in our mobile apps for Android and iOS on phones, on cell phones. So you can bring up a digital form on a personal device.
Well, thank you, Ben. And hey, I was just going to say, does anyone have any questions? Because we do have some time for Q&A. I believe Serge has his hand up. Did you have a question or a comment, Serge?
Yes, Jennifer, just a question for Ben. I just wanted to know, Ben, if we can have a drop-down list as a field on the form. And if yes, is it a way to link that drop-down list to, let's say, to tag database? For example, I saw the assign field.
Yeah.
Can we have the list of, let's say, the personnel so that the user can select directly the user that he wants?
Yeah, so this way you would have a controlled selection, right, of who it could be assigned to. The answer is yes, Serge. When you're building that field, okay, in the options of that text field, you could select it as a drop down. But most importantly, to achieve your goal of having the users selecting those fields, you would want to link it to the appropriate API endpoint. Okay, so that field under the API section, we would want to map it to personnel list as an example. Okay, and this way the form could read in real time what's your personnel list, and then prompt the user to select the required one. Okay, so it goes both ways. Okay, you can push information to the API, and you can also read information from the API as well.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Great question. Great question. We have another question from Jeff. Where is the data kept? Currently, we use lines to accommodate forms scenario. How does this work when you interact with BC?
Yes, that's a very good question, Jeff. It will capture the data against the attachment table in BC. Okay, if you're familiar with it, the attachment table would be on request, work orders, and equipment, which also means that you can have forms on all three of those tables. Okay, and how it would look like, and we can maybe have a look here if you just give me a second. I'll just click share. Okay, so let's say we're back on our work order 119. I'll just put you on the left, and I go under attachment, and you see here that on work order 119, okay, we have a file name that's been inserted. Okay, that's the ID of the form submission, and you see here attachment type, sorry, would be external form. Okay, and then if I reference this to, let's say, my submission that I had over here, okay, that would be my submission. Okay, so of course in Business Central you're not able to render the submitted forms themselves, okay, but it will give you essentially the hyperlink to drill down under this page here, or the portal page as well. Okay.
Does that answer your question, Jeff? I see that you've put your hand up again. Did you have a follow-up?
Well, I guess my question is more related to how do you mine the metadata from this when you're doing a review of results versus the form is just a capture of somebody's information that cannot be analyzed?
Yeah, all of the information here would be stored in an SQL database that we could query using Power BI, Jeff. Okay.
Okay.
So that would probably be the most convenient way for you to measure it. However, keep in mind that we can always push information back to Business Central, and you can measure it from there as well. Okay, let's on that form. Let's say I have 25 input fields. Maybe you're only really interested into measuring 2 or 3 of them, and we could link those back to Business Central, and you'd be able to measure it immediately from there. But I also like your other idea of maybe having access immediately to the SQL and then be able to query any fields you want.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but I mean, the data can be captured and driven straight into, like, for example, fields on a work order.
Yes.
So, like in, test result type of actions can be captured here and driven back to our test results. You could also put in like meter information, like maybe a mileage reading. I mean, just anything really. Conditions. Yeah, conditions could be used. And then if you've got like a conditions on a scale of 1 to 5, and we feed that, and that can drive a work order, that can drive an alert or a warning. We can use that data to act on it as well. So it just kind of depends. But all this stuff can be just saved, or like in the database to be analyzed, or it can be brought into specific also fields. So when a form is completed, we can use it directly in the functionality of tag.
Fantastic. I see that we have a question from Jian.
Yeah, thank you. For Ben, I consider about we have a work procedure before in our standard function in tag, and also we have the test results. So a lot of our customer already use those classic function here. So my question is, compared with those function, in which situation we prefer our customer use this form in future, and in which situation we probably may only keep them to use the work procedure and test the results as before. And do we have work procedure also can connect with this new test form or digital form?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Jang. Maybe if I can add a bit more detail to what Doyle was explaining. Think of the digital form as a way to enhance the work procedures and the test results. Okay, so right now, work procedures and test results works great. Okay, but the user experience is limited to what Business Central or Tag Portal has to offer. Okay, could be a good case for most of our customers, but as soon as we're going to get into more complex, let's say regulatory compliance, or even more complex commissioning forms where we're trying to capture a whole lot of different variables at once, sometimes it makes a lot of sense to organize the information differently. Okay, exactly like I'm doing it here, right? Where I can have a risk type and then a bullet point list and then a big risk description. Could be difficult to achieve that with test results. Okay? But if we want to have the test results in Business Central, a little bit like Jeff mentioned earlier, we can link that. Okay, so we could say that risk type would be a test result work procedure. Okay, and these would be my expected values. It's just that I have the freedom of displaying it to what's most convenient for my users and for my organization. Okay, so they can work in tandem, Jan, to answer your question.
Yeah.
They're often used to enhance the test forms.
Yeah, so that means customers can still use their work procedure, because I see some
For sure.
customer even have more than 1,000 different work procedure as before. So that will be a good news for them to reuse the old thing and in this new form. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great, thank you. And Jeff, I see that your hand's up. I'm not sure. Did you have another follow-up question?
Yes, I had one more.
Okay, fire away.
When a fault entry is created on a work order and the process is carried through, is this mapped to be included on the work order that's carried through the fault entry, or is that something manually that would have to happen?
Are you using templates, Jeff?
Yes.
With yes. Okay. So on the templates, you have attachments, right? And on the attachment, you could have a form that you link. So that way,
but
you input your.
I'm more referring to the completed one that we just, like, for example, you just completed one here that shows that there is a deficiency, and that deficiency is referenced on the work order that's created through the fault entry. So that's just trying to figure out how that's communicated across.
We could link, well, your fault entry would be linked to the work order, and then the form would be linked to the work order as well. So this way you could establish a relationship between a fault entry and the form. But you're mentioning up a good point, and that's good feedback. I think it would make a lot of sense to have the fault link to the form immediately. So let's say I raise a new form, call it a fault entry form, okay? And we could essentially use this to generate fault entries. That could be something I discuss with the developers to support the process that you're doing. Otherwise, you're right. You need to drill down to one to get to the other.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Well, we are coming up to the end of the half hour. I'm just going to share a slide here. Mark your calendars. We are going to be providing another deep dive in January, and that is where we're going to focus on our new mobile app, which we're most excited about. For any of the partners that are on the call, we will be attending the Directions for Partners in North America in San Diego in April. And the day prior, we will be putting on an annual charity golf scramble to get the partners together. So any partners on the line that are interested in participating in that, and we also always love to see you at these conferences, please take note of April 13th. And most importantly, we hope that you all have a wonderful holiday season, and we hope to see you on January 24th for our mobile demonstration. If you have further questions, please reach out to us. We will be more than happy to dive even deeper as to how these digital forms could be integrated into your system. And it was very interesting today. I was we're always looking for feedback as we evolve. That's part of the goal behind these deep dives, is to be able to have access to our customers and partners to learn more about what your needs are as we're developing these new functionalities and sharing them with you. We're also open ears to learning how we can continue to evolve them to make the software work as best we can for your business. So thank you to everyone for joining. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you in January. This also, just a quick note, we are recording this and we will be sharing it. There are some other participants that had emailed us to let us know that they had something come up that they couldn't attend. If you have colleagues that you might feel could benefit from this, we will have it on demand. It also helps for some that are in some of our customers that are on different time zones. It's always a challenge for us to accommodate all of that. So everyone have a great rest of your day. Thank you.